with the first slide. Hopefully everyone can hear me, and hopefully everyone can see my screen. The screen I'm looking at right now is Morse Technologies and GHA Technologies. I am the presenter, the owner of Morse Technologies, Eli Morse. My email address is there, as well as my phone number. I appreciate Tom Matson from GHA putting this together with us, and Lindsay, so that we can present to you guys and talk a little bit about the type of services that Morse Technologies offers and how I would like to work closer with GHA going forward to make it mutually beneficial to both parties for a sales cycle and from an opportunity standpoint. So the agenda today is going to be discussing about a new partnership opportunity between GHA and Morse Technologies. I say new, I would rather say expanded partnership, as I've worked with Tom in the past, and he has given opportunities to my engineering team as well. Discuss Morse Technologies technology offerings, what our IT service offerings are, and share with you guys realized benefits that we've seen with other VARs, including companies such as CDW, Zones, Green Pages, PC Connection, Staples. Those are some of the big ones out there that we've done work with in the past and have had a very positive relationship over the past couple of years. And lastly, how a partnership can add a new revenue stream for both GHA and Morse Technologies. So the overview of Morse Technologies. Real quick, we've been in business for over 10 years now. Our core business is a professional services company, outsourced IT services. We do a lot of enterprise level work, a lot of different types of projects. So our professional services division, we do both short-term project engagements as well as long-term customer IT engagements and projects. We work with small and mid-sized companies on an outsourced basis as their go-to IT services department on a part-time basis, as well as the larger companies that have an IT staff. We'll work with them as an augmentation, as a supplement, and oftentimes our engagement is on specific projects that I'll talk more about in some later slides. And the objective there will be to give you guys a good understanding as to what type of skill set we have that we can offer as a value add to GHA when selling, hardware and software solutions, and how we can be of assistance from an IT services standpoint. Our managed services division, we have a product. We use several products. Primarily, GHA is the tool that we use. That's one of the leading desktop and server management products in the market for managed service providers. What that does is allows us to proactively manage desktops, servers, as well as monitor critical services applications, hardware thresholds. So it's a component that we use as a tool to add on to desktops and servers to keep them well maintained and keep them running in optimal shape. Our cloud services division, we offer hosted servers and desktops and an online managed backup solution based out of our data center, which is, we have 2 cabinets in data centers located in Andover, Massachusetts, as well as Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Pardon my throat here, because I'm coming over and finishing up a cold here. Next slide. So some examples of projects we've done with other VARs. Essentially, what we've developed a good partnership with a company that is almost strictly a broker for some of the big players out there. So some of the bigger companies such as CDW, I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with Green Pages, based out of Kittery, Maine, PC Connections, based out of Nashua, New Hampshire, Staples, you've obviously heard of, what's the other big one, Zones. We're partnered up with a company that has a very strong relationship with these providers. These 5 particular companies they've got a professional services division. They do have some professional services staff, but a lot of the work that they sub out through this broker, and ultimately it comes to Morse Technologies, and we'll actually do the work and the professional services implementations for these companies as these companies. We've been working on these engagements for a couple of years now, and I've recently, let me put that on mute, I've recently really been trying to work and figure out a way that Morse Technologies can really become, you know, a solid go-to partner for companies such as GHA. And I've discussed this with Tom Mattson over the past several months, and I think it's something that we can offer as a value add, so that whenever you guys are selling, you know, big VMware deals or hardware deals, server implementations, Windows implementations, Windows 2012 is coming out, Exchange 2013 is coming out. When you guys sell these, being able to bundle in professional services with these hardware and software sales can certainly add value to you guys getting the complete solution and selling the product as well as the professional services. A few examples of projects we have done. We had one of my engineers fly to Alaska twice last year, 2 different virtualization projects. One was a VMware implementation where he flew out there. It was a 40-hour project. He went out there. He focused strictly on server consolidation, and he worked with their IT staff. It was a hospital. And he spent time on Kodiak Island, Alaska, and was out there for 40 hours to consolidate servers and implement the server virtualization platform. The second time he went out there was to upgrade their Exchange environment from 2003 to Exchange 2010. And during that same trip, he also rolled out, I think, about 100 seats of VDI. That was one project, or 2 projects really, that that certainly benefited Zones and the sales staff that sold the hardware and software solution to this hospital. They were able to bundle in this project and the professional services into one complete package. And it worked out well for the customer. And I think since that initial engagement for those 2 projects, we've been involved remotely to work in a continuous basis with the IT staff for this particular hospital. We've flown out to LA for Exchange upgrades. That was through PC Connection. We've done some hardware staging in a data center for CDW, and that was in Kansas. We had one of our engineers fly out there for a week and help them stage a couple of cabinets of hardware that was sold by CDW. Citrix projects, we've done several of those. One particular was a Green Pages project, and it was a rollout of both Citrix on the back end for server consolidation as well as the desktop management component as well, where we did some published desktops and published applications. Next slide. So how can GHA leverage Morse Technologies today and begin working on deals? The best suggestion I would have is the next opportunity that you come across, whether it's a hardware sale or a software sale, regional doesn't matter, geographic location does not matter. As we travel, as you can see from the previous slide, some of the projects we've worked on, we are based in Salem, New Hampshire, but like I said, with the technology the way it is today, with the capabilities of remote work, desktop, and server access, it really doesn't matter where it is, and we're certainly willing to travel for the right size project. So I would say the next hardware sale, the next software sale, see if there's interest from the customer, and I'm sure you guys are already doing this and probably have relationships with other IT companies here and there throughout your region of the country, but the next opportunity, give us a call or shoot me an email, and I'll talk you through it and let you know if it's something that we can do and give you a ballpark on what would be involved, how many hours, the pricing. Ideally, where I see this going for both parties is for GHA to really be able to profit from the services we do, and that's typically how these other companies work, is they'll sell it as their own professional service, and for X dollars an hour, and we'll charge a lower rate so that, GHA as a company or as a sales team, you can make a margin off of the work we do. There's many different ways of setting up the partnership, but that's one example. So pick up the phone, give me a call, let me know what the opportunity is. I'd be more than willing to get on the phone and help you close the opportunity as well if that helps. We've done many engagements with customers where they're looking to buy a big software deal or a big hardware deal, and from a IT services standpoint, we'll get on the call with the VAR as well as with the customer and help them address any questions. It gives us a chance to ask any questions about the project so that we can actually come up with a statement of work to provide to the VAR so you guys can actually present that to the customer. And that's typically done via conference call. Once the statement of work is put together by us, we provide that to you, and you bundle in the professional services with the hardware and software portion of the project into a statement of work that's presented to the customer. And at that point, once the customer signs off on it, we work closely with the salesperson from GHA to make sure that the project is kicked off appropriately as well as followed through to completion. So back to the types of services, I will state again, we are a strong Windows shop from anywhere from Windows 2000, 2003 up to 2008 and now 2012. From an Exchange standpoint, we work with Exchange 2000 up through 2013 now. We do a lot of 2003 and 2007 to 2010 migrations. And now that Exchange 2013 is coming out, that's going to be a big focus over the next couple of years until the next version comes out. So same thing with Windows 2008. We've done a ton of Active Directory upgrades from 2003 to 2008. And now the focus is going to be over the next couple of years of getting them up to 2012, as 2003 and 2000 are no longer going to be supported by Microsoft support. Virtualization is another big area that I'm sure you guys come across as far as selling software deals and hardware deals. Most companies, especially, well, small and mid-sized companies, the SMB as well as enterprise, server consolidation and server virtualization is huge. It's part of every design out there now, even for the small 1, 2, 3 server shops. So we get involved with that. We try to maintain ourselves as being agnostic from a virtualization standpoint. We work with Hyper-V by Microsoft. We work with Citrix. We work with VMware. We have our certain preferences, and we have our certain skill sets and technologies that we think work better than others, but some companies insist on going with Hyper-V, some insist on Citrix, and some insist on VMware. Others will want to do a combination of any of the above. So we work with them all. If it's a design situation where it's kind of a pre-sales engagement and you're working with the customer to discuss with them the options, that's a good opportunity to bring in a Morse Technologies engineer to help you guys come up with a design for the customer, and then you guys can make that sale and we can help out with the implementation. Virtual desktops and published applications, we work with Citrix and VMware in that regard, as well as Microsoft with the terminal services and remote desktop. And again, we're agnostic when it comes to those technologies as well. What we try to do is understand what the customer is trying to accomplish, how many users might be, connecting remotely, what kind of bandwidth they might have, what kind of device they're connecting from, and help them come up with a solution that makes sense. And it might be, strictly over a VPN tunnel, or it might incorporate a combination of hosted desktop by VMware as well as, a Citrix published application. So we try to understand what the company's, the customer's goals and objectives are, and work with them to come up with the best solution. Managed services, some of the areas of managed services that we offer. And we've been doing this as as a supplement to our professional services division. We offer monitoring on the server side. We monitor hardware, we monitor applications, we monitor internet connectivity. We do LAN, router, and firewall and switch management and monitoring, so that anytime there's an outage, anytime there is any kind of deficiency, it's something that we can get notified and respond accordingly. So when you sell, let's say, any firewall line, and we're, again, agnostic on the line, we do a lot with Cisco, we do a lot with SonicWall, Juniper, I mean, really pretty much any firewall that's out there. Same thing with switches, same thing with routers. Anytime you sell any one of those types of devices, being able to offer a managed service around that product is beneficial to the customer, as well as it can be a source of revenue to GHA and ultimately to you guys as the sales staff. So the same thing when it comes to spam filtering and voice solutions. If your customer is coming to you and asking about, what do you know about, different types of spam offerings, spam solutions, phone solutions. If you're ever in a situation where you're not sure, or you don't offer it, or you aren't sure exactly how to direct them, I would say the best thing to do in that case I'd want you to pick up the phone and call Morse Technologies. As a partner to you guys, we'd be more than happy to steer you in the right direction, give you some advice, feedback, suggestions, whatever. But there's no area in technology when customers are calling you, if you're not sure, I would like to just make sure that we are, kind of a go-to partner for you guys for any questions regarding technology and IT. We offer different spam filtering solutions as well as different hosted voice solutions. And again, depending on the type of customer objectives you have for any particular customer, we'll help decide or give them a few options for the best solution that would fit their needs. One question did come in from John, OST. John Ost. Great list of services. Do you also support Adobe and Adobe Publishing? That's a good question, and the answer is yes, we do. That's one of the common products that many of our customers have used. In fact, we do also offer it in a published application scenario through Citrix, as well as VDI by View. So yes, it is a product that we support, and we typically will support on a regular basis for most customers. It's almost as common for a lot of our customers as the Office suite. I would be curious what type of specific questions around Adobe you have, and we can certainly address that maybe after. One thing I will say is, aside from doing this webinar right now, what I will do is over the next week or so, I'll follow up with each of the people that attended today, and via email or via phone or whatever. And I think some of the folks here are local to Salem, New Hampshire. I think Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as a couple of other local towns in the area. I'm going to make an attempt to try and see if you guys want to grab lunch, and we can kind of go expand a little bit further on the relationship and how we can grow it and build it, mutually for both GHA and for Morse. Christopher Lynch asked a question regarding managed services. Does this mean you have someone on call 24/7, 365? The answer to that question is yes. Our standard traditional help desk window, let's say, and we have a staffed help desk from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. Outside of those hours, we have an on-call engineer that covers from 7 a.m. to 8:30 in the morning, and then from 5 p.m. to 10:30 at night. Any specific customers that have requirements beyond that, we have an escalation list of people to call. So we do offer 365, 24/7 support for customers that require it. Yes, they pay for it a little bit more. It costs more money, but we certainly offer that. And we have many customers that have presence overseas. We have a customer that's based in Andover, Mass. They trade chips in large quantities for customers like Cisco, HP. So they literally trade millions and millions and millions of chips, processors, hard drives from Asia, and they're brokers of this particular hardware, and they'll make margin. And they have sites in Singapore, Amsterdam, and Hong Kong. They are a 24/7 operation. We host their servers in our data center, but we also need to be available to them, during the middle of the night. They're up, they're working. It's, the 12-hour and up to 24-hour time zone difference. So the answer to that question is yes, we do offer 24/7 support. Another question here for Morse Technologies, do we work with companies with less than 25 people? Absolutely. Our bread and butter from day one, back when I was an engineer 10 years ago, most companies I went after back in the day were anywhere from a couple of people up to 20, 25 people. Over the past several years, I've focused more of my time on the bigger customers for obvious reasons, but we have many customers that are 25 or less. And those are the customers that don't typically have an IT staff. They rely on us solely to be their IT staff. And we do this through a combination of our desktop and server management tool, so we can automate some of the routine tasks, such as the cleanups and the defrags and the Windows patching. We'll automate all of that. We'll also combine an on-site visit typically, whether it's 4 hours a month, 4 hours every other week, 4 hours a week, up to, we've had customers that we've been in there 12 to 16 hours a week. But for these smaller customers, they need a partner that is essentially like their full-time IT staff, even though we're not there all the time, on site. We're there from a company presence all the time, and we have this tool in the background that's doing a lot of the routine maintenance. And anytime there's an issue in between our scheduled visits, they can call our help desk anytime. Good question, though. Thank you, Chris. Spam filtering, we have a few different options there. And I think we try to customize our solutions for the company, what their budget is, what they're looking to accomplish. Some people want outbound web content filtering. Others just want inbound email spam filtering. So there's the approach that we take in any case is a case-by-case basis based on our experience and our knowledge and other companies that are similar. Try to come up with a solution that makes sense for them. The cloud. Obviously, at this point, you guys have all heard of the cloud. The cloud means many things. The cloud has many interpretations. My description of the cloud and our cloud offering is we've invested in infrastructure in our data center space and in our cabinet. And when I say we've invested in infrastructure, not only do we physically host companies' equipment, like the example I said for the company that trades the chips from Asia. In their case, they needed guaranteed uptime, and they were sitting in Andover, Mass, on a river that flooded, and it happened a couple of times in the past few years, and their basement where their servers were got flooded, and they were down for 3 or 4 days, and it cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars. In their case, we physically co-located their servers to our space. The cloud solution is we have our own hardware, our own SANs, our own VM hosts. So I've invested in a lot of technology so we can provision up hosted servers. So back to the question on working with companies with 25 or less, they're an ideal candidate for, rather than them spending money maybe on having a server room in their space. In their case, they might want to host their servers and do it through a cloud offering. So we can host their servers and keep the equipment off-site. I've had cases where we host it virtually on our equipment, and I've had cases where we've hosted it, like I said, in the other case I gave you for the company in Andover. Same thing with desktops. We can use Citrix. We can use remote desktop services by Microsoft, VMware's VDI. And from any device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or a laptop or a desktop, and it could be anywhere, whether they're traveling and they're using a terminal at an airport or they're in their office. I mean, they can access their desktops and all their preferences that go along with it from anywhere. So we've got hosted server options, we've got hosted desktop options, hosted email options. Again, customizable. We could resell Microsoft's hosted offerings, or we can, preferably to you, GHA, as well as us, we'd rather have them owning their infrastructure, owning their applications, their software, owning their email licensing, and rather than resell hosted Exchange by Microsoft, I mean, I'd rather see them own their licensing, run it on our server or on their equipment, and have us manage it. And it's beneficial from a functionality standpoint for the customer, but it's also from a sales cycle perspective for GHA as well as Morse Technologies. That's the preferred route. Not only from those two perspectives, but also from an IT services management and control perspective. Reselling someone else's services and relying on them to set up email boxes or them to provision servers and things like that. Personally, my team, and in my experience, having control over that, things get done a lot quicker, and we can control how it's deployed, how it's backed up, how it's serviced, etc. John Ost asked a question. OST. Okay, it sounds like OST. Will you offer a set of SKUs of service offerings, and can you give us a sense of margins? Let's see. As far as SKUs on service offerings, we would, yes. And I've even set up, I've got a wholesale line card. I hired a marketing person to come in and create us a channel program. So the answer to your question is yes, we can come up with a customized set of SKUs for service. And as far as an idea of margin, you know what John will do is I'll reach out to you. We'll talk about this more in depth. And I think what we'll probably want to do is have a follow-up webinar maybe after the fact. I'll get with Tom Matson and kind of regroup here and address some questions. But there's so many different offerings that I think each customer need or solution is going to be kind of a case-by-case basis. But I will say this, that anytime we do it with these other vendors, when they bring us in, they're looking at a total project. So let's say a company is coming to you looking to buy a server or two or a bunch of servers. The trick is asking the right questions to find out what they're trying to accomplish and what the whole overall project is, and get their buy-in to wanting GHA's professional services to work with them to help implement. And I think once we get their ear on that and you engage us and we do a call with you guys, we can kind of uncover what they're trying to accomplish, and based on that, come up with a solution. As far as margin, if you could sell it, typically I'll work out a rate with you guys, and based on the region of the country, it probably varies. There's a certain number I need to be at, and you guys can sell it for whatever you want to make that difference. I know it's not uncommon to sell, professional services at rates of $175 to $200, $225, and let's say we're making $125. I mean, you can make some pretty decent margin off that. The same thing with the cloud offerings and the cloud services and the co-location services. I've dropped my rates quite a bit so that you can make anywhere easily 20%, 30% margin. and we can work on those in more detail outside of the this webinar. Another question from Jeff Cohen: are there geographic limitations? Absolutely not. Like I said, for project, we'll travel, and for the cloud stuff and the managed service stuff, it's all remote anyway, so that does not matter whatsoever. For projects, typically we want to have a decent-sized project to travel. Like the case where we went to Alaska, it was a 40-hour project, and my engineers loved it because it's not something, this particular guy had traveled too much with Morse Technologies, so he went out there for an extra 2 days after the fact and went halibut fishing. So it's, it's for the right project and the right size project, it makes sense to travel, and most cases the customer is willing to pick up the travel costs as well, as that they're typically fairly insignificant in the grand scheme of the project. Another question here is there a New England radius or mileage limit that you offer regular site visits? Follow up to your point about giving small companies 4-hour site visits. That's a good question. As far as regional, I mean, within 2 hours of southern New Hampshire, let's say. And typically for companies like that, I'd say even 3 hours, because we're out in Springfield fairly often, and that's a 2.5 hour, well, it's about a 2-hour ride. Usually for a 4-hour site visit, we probably say every other month, let's do 8 hours. And then in between, let's do remote. Outside of 2-3 hours, we probably would want to keep it remote. And maybe in that case, once a quarter, we travel down, depending on the size of the company, what their needs are. A lot of companies are okay with the remote, completely remote. And in that case, we're very engaged through our desktop management tool, and we have full remote controllability. And in the worst case, if we had to fly down there to a location, it happens infrequently, but if that's the case, then that's the case. We do have a client down in New Jersey. We'll go to Philadelphia a couple times a year, but we do about 10 hours a month with this particular customer, and it's all remote. And if they need us on site, we go on site. That happens to be a 5-site hospital with about 600 users, and we did a big virtualization project. Now we support and manage the VM environment as well as monitor all their Windows servers. So it's not uncommon to fly down there a couple times a year. All right. The next few slides, I'm not going to go through them because it's more detail on all the stuff that I discussed. So like server co-location, what we did was we recorded this, and we're going to stick it up on YouTube, and you guys can get a copy of it. So we did record it, and it just kind of expands on what server co-location is, what server hosting is. Talked a little bit about virtualization, virtual PC, means for remote access. A common question that we get is, if we do host company servers, how are they going to connect? And again, that depends on many factors, because some companies might have an MPLS connection from their site to our data center, and they connect over that connection. Others might want to use remote desktop through Terminal Services, Microsoft's product. Others use Citrix, and others might use View, VDI by VMware. So it depends on what they're trying to accomplish and what applications they're trying to use. This slide talks about virtual applications and email hosting, which we covered. Cloud storage, cloud backup. One of the biggest means for sale these days is customers asking for backup solutions. And if they, a lot of times what they'll want to do is purchase through GHA a backup solution, whether it's software or a hardware appliance or a combination of both. And many times we'll want to bundle in some vaulting for disaster recovery purposes. So the vaulting aspect, we have a few different options we can offer at reasonable prices, and again, with margin to GHA sales reps, so that you can offer, in conjunction with that, localized backup solution and online vaulting. So that brings us to the conclusion of this webinar. And like I said, you guys have my information here. I am very engaged with all partnerships that we try to establish, and we're a small company that works closely with our vendors. So do not hesitate whatsoever to shoot me an email, give me a call. In fact, if you email me, and I'll reply to you, and that way you can have my cell phone number, because it's easier to get me on my cell phone than my office line. I'm traveling a lot. But I would like to follow up with each of you that joined us today and have a more personal discussion about how we can help you guys out and how we can best make this partnership work for both parties. And the goal and objective here is, number one, offering more options and an overall complete solution to the customer, as well as profit from it. I mean, that's the goal for all of us. And I'm willing to do anything I can to help you guys out and make it a positive relationship.